Alright all, and welcome back to a new video where we'll be previewing the main races of this weekend, which include obviously the Investec Derby and the Investec Oaks, alongside the Eclipse at Sandown on Sunday, and a few juicy French races even to have a little quick look at. So we're going to cover those five: Derby, Oaks, Eclipse, the French Oaks and the French Derby, and then a best bet of the weekend, and that will be all for this video. I hope you guys have been enjoying these preview videos. I've been really enjoying making them the last few weeks, so I hope you guys are enjoying them too, and if you're new around here, welcome, I suppose, and hope you do enjoy it and stick around. Moving into the Derby, it's Thursday afternoon as we speak, so the official declarations were confirmed this morning, the draw was confirmed this morning. So it's changed a little bit, I suppose, in terms of the fact that English King has actually drifted back out to 11-4 now, because he's been given the coffin draw stall 1, Mogul's in stall 2, but Ryan Moore has chosen him, and so on and so on. It's a race I'm finding it tricky to get my head round, I must confess. English King is just far too short a price. Let's call a spade a spade. If he was a 5-6 to 1 chance, I'd be somewhat interested in him, I must confess, but he's not. He's a 5 to 2 chance at the moment, and that isn't a price I want to be interested in whatsoever. I think the price is completely gone at this stage. If you're sitting on good anti-post prices, fair enough. You're entitled to feel that he has a very good chance, and he probably does, but it's not a price, as I say, that I could really be recommending going in on. Therefore, the horse I've always earmarked for this race this year has been Mogul, and I'm not going to shy away from him now, even though he's probably given me a fair few reasons as to why I should. His run at Ascot was really, really subpar, let's be honest with ourselves, and even last year as a 2-year-old, a lot of things he did, it took a long time to get him wound up, but he does seem to be that sort of lazy, backward type, so I'm really hoping there's an awful lot of improvement for that first one, and I would be convinced there is an awful lot of improvement. I'm not sure enough to win himself a Derby, but I do think he'll be a very good horse by the end of the year still. Unfortunately, you are taking a lot of it on trust, just because he's a full brother to Japan. There's an awful lot of hype because he's the full brother to Japan, and Japan they're similar enough physically, and they're similar enough certainly at the moment in terms of what they achieved at 2 and their first start as a 3-year-old. Now, Japan improved bundles on that to become a very close third in the Derby last year at a massive price. Mogul hasn't been lost in the market. He's 11-2 now. He's contracted back in because Ryan Moore's picked him, I suspect. Ryan Moore's a very good jockey. If he's good enough, he'll get him home. I think this race will turn into a bit of a slog. Both Serpentine and Arun Naveen for Aidan O'Brien are going to go out and make this a fierce clip. I can't have Kamiko as a result. I think Kamiko should be favoured in terms of, I do believe the Guineas winner should be ahead of a Lingfield Derby trial winner in the betting, but this Kitten's Joy thing is just really in my head at the moment, and it happened with Crossfire Hurricane last week in the Irish Derby. I can't see Kamiko staying this because I think it's going to be a tough mile 4. It's not just going to be a bog standard mile 4. They'll run this to sap a lot of stamina out of the likes of a Kamiko, and therefore I can't have him. And I'm really, for some reason, and I'll end up probably regretting saying this, but I'm really against Russian Emperor. I just can't see it myself. The Hampton Court was an okay race, but it wasn't a brilliant race. And previous to that, he couldn't get past Cormorant in the Derrenstein Stud trial. And that really, that wasn't even his first run of the season. He ran at Naas the first day of the season. So you can't even make the Mogul excuse that he's going to, that was the first race of his season, and therefore that's the reason he got beat by Cormorant. He should have won that day and he didn't. Then Ryan Moore gave him an absolute perler at Ascot, which is being underplayed, I think, how good a ride it was he gave him at Ascot. And he's won an okay-looking Hampton Court, but I can't have him personally, I must confess. Vatican City is a horse that does scream out to me that he'll be a good Group 1 horse. I'm not sure whether it'll be at this trip, though. And I look down through the rest of the market and kind of go, I'm not really falling in love with anything until I got down to one at an absolute mad price. And I'm seeing that a lot of bookmakers are going 4 places for this race. So I'm going to advise a very, very small little play each way on Max Vega at 50 to 1. 50 to 1 is available for Harry Bentley and Rafe Beckett. The Son of Lope de Vega out of a Dalekani mare is a very, very well-bred horse and was a very good 2-year-old last year. He won the Zetland Stakes by 3 lengths going away from Miss Yoda, and Berkshire Rocco was 4 lengths in behind that day. Now, English King has beaten Berkshire Rocco 2.5 lengths this year and is, 5 to 2, and Max Vega's 50 to 1. Now, I know you can't properly correlate 2-year-old and 3-year-old form, but it is something to just bear in mind that there's such a discrepancy in price. He should come on leaps and bounds for that Kempton listed run he put in. He didn't seem to like the all-weather massively. And the form of that race has worked out pretty well as well. So I think he's worth a little small, maybe 2 or 3 quid each way if you have a 5 or 6 quid spare. But Mogul at 11 to 2 is my main selection. He's been the horse I've talked up. I've put him on different podcasts up at 9 to 1, 10 to 1 and stuff like that. So I'm not going to desert him now. And that would be my 2 selections for the Derby. The Oaks has ended up being a bit, people are saying that it's a bit of a disappointing Oaks. I can see where they're coming from in terms of there's only 8 runners, but sometimes these races have 16 runners, but 8 of them are never going to win anyway. So there's kind of no point in that in the same way. The one thing that obviously, from my personal perspective, it's missing is one of these Jessica Harrington fillies running. It is a massive shame. I think they're a good crop of fillies, and it is disappointing that not one of them is in the Oaks. I thought one of them would be, but it hasn't ended up being the case. Love is at the top of the market. Love is a rock-solid favourite, 11 to 10. I think that's a poor enough price, to be honest. Would it surprise me if she won? Probably not, but I don't think it's a good price. And frankly, Darling's 2 to 1, having won the Ribblesdale. Again, she's probably a fair price for having won the Ribblesdale so impressively. Daughter of Frankel, Anthony Oppenheimer has a good record in these Epsom Classics. John Gosden, Frankie Dettori, the record speaks for themselves. However, I think the play in this really is Ennistymon at 13 to 2. At 13 to 2, you can back him each way, or you can back her each way, or back her on the nose. She ran a superb race behind Frankly Darling at Royal Ascot, staying on all the time. She also, Frankly Darling, clearly got first run in that race, and Ennistymon had to go wide under James Doyle and make up a lot of late ground, and did so quite impressively. And for a horse that's only ended up winning a pretty adequate maiden at Leopardstown at the start of the season, which the form has turned out to be not brilliant, but she just needed that run, and she just about got her head in front, which was a pretty decent effort considering she'd, I'd say, improved an awful lot for that run, and she proved that in Royal Ascot, going up in trip and against better opposition on a stronger pace. I think this is really going to suit her. She's 13 to 2, as I say. I'm not sure who's going to end up riding her, because Ryan Moore will ride Love, but Shamie Heffernan is over riding in the Prix de Diane on the Sunday. So it might be a Porrick Beggy or something that picks up the ride on Ennistymon. He obviously can, has shown off with Wings of Eagles that he can win in these big races if you give him the right type of horse. That wouldn't mind it at all. Maybe actually, now that I say it, James Doyle might keep the ride. I don't know how the jockey bookings are going to turn out with that one. I wouldn't mind whoever is on, to be honest. I think she's a rock solid each way bet at 13 to 2, which is still freely available, and hopefully Ennistymon can run very well. I really would be disappointed if she's not in the first 3. The third race we're going to cover is the Eclipse on Sunday. It hasn't been completely finalised, the overall declarations, obviously, because we're here on the Thursday. But Lord North, unfortunately, it seems like he's not going to run against stablemate Enable, which is disappointing because it would have been interesting to test the waters and see how good Lord North is. I think Enable's quite vulnerable in this race. I'd love to see her win. I think she'd be the best win for a racing perspective, but she's very skimpy odds-wise. She's around even money, and I think she is vulnerable. Gayat, I can see the angle with Gayat. He's 5 to 2. If you like Gayat, that's probably not the worst price. He's just a horse I don't like at all, to be honest. I've no idea why. There's certain horses I just get notions about, and Gayat is one of them. I just think he's a bit overhyped, and he could win this race. But then, you know, people would think he's the best thing since sliced bread, and actually Enable was vulnerable and stuff like that. It just wouldn't surprise me if Gaiath was to win tomorrow. That's why I'm not going to go full ham on him, but he's just a horse I'm never going to be able to take to, I'm afraid. A horse that I always have taken to is Japan, and I've just had, 5 minutes rambling on about his full brother Mogul. Japan did the exact same. He ran a bit of a stinker at Royal Ascot. Looking back on it, it was probably not the best thing to put the two of them up as selections, considering I knew myself that was a big worry. He's 5-1 for this race, still best price with William Hill at the moment, at the time of recording, so if that's gone I do apologise, but that was here on Odds Checker around 2 minutes before I started recording this video. He was 4th in the Arc last year. He won the Judmont last year as well, alongside a Group 1 over in France. He's a very good Group 1 animal. A mile 2 around Sandown might be a tad on the sharp side, but I can see him staying on really well when Gaiath perhaps might be paddling a little bit in the final furlong, having gone for pretty... I think they'll ride Gaiath really, really to take it out of the mid-race, and it might just leave him a little bit susceptible at the finish. He might be too far clear. As I say, Japan, it would be a small bet for me in this race because, as I say, I would like Enable to win, but Japan would be my selection just at the prices. Enable is very short in my eyes. The two French races, I'm not a massive fan of. Well, not a massive fan. I just don't watch French racing that much. When I do watch it, it's well covered on Sky Sports Racing, and it's one of those things. When it's on and there's good racing, I'll obviously watch it, but it's not something I keep up to date with on a daily basis. So I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. The only reason I'm covering these two races are there are horses that I do like in them. First of all, the Prix de Diane. You guys know how much of a fan of Alpine Star I am. Napped her up in the Coronation Stakes on these videos at 9-2. She ended up going off and she absolutely hacked up. She's 11-4 here, best price with Coral. I think this step up to a mile 2 will suit her down to the ground. She has quite an economical way of going about things. She kind of runs a little bit behind the bridle. It wouldn't surprise me if half a mile from home she's just being niggled along by Stefan Pasquier, who gets the ride for Jessica Harrington. It's obviously a bit of a shame that Shane Foley can't go over and ride her at the moment, but that's just the way it is. He knows, I suspect, that when this filly comes home and maybe runs in some of the races in Ireland, he's got a brilliant filly to look forward to. And I think Alpine Star will take a whole heap of beating in this. I just about favour the Coronation Stakes form over the Irish 1000 Guineas form. I just think it has a slightly bit more robust look to it, with Quadrilateral being there and the horse... was it Sharing? I think the horse that won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies race, the American trained horse. I think that's a decent enough piece of form. The Irish 1000 Guineas form hasn't been tested too much, so it'll be very interesting to see. But I think Alpine Star at 11-4 is a bet that I'd look to get involved in at around the joint favourite mark. And the Prix de Jockey Club, again, it's going to be one near the top of the market, one at the top of the market, but I... for some reason, really, really like Victor Ludorom. And I've no idea why, really. It's just one... I just really like him. I like the way he wins races. I like horses that put it to bed and then, they know when they've won. They don't overexert, because at the end of the day, you end up getting a price every single time about them, because people think, oh, well, did he actually do it that well? He's 9-4 at the moment for the Prix de Jockey Club against this Ocean Atlantique. I can't have this Ocean Atlantique at all. He seems to have won a fairly Mickey Mouse listed race, and now he has won over the Trip, which is obviously the big thing, but a listed race against French 2000 Guineas form, I'm going to take the French 2000 Guineas form. He won very easily that day, Victor Ludorom, and he obviously won the Jean-Luc de Lagardère at the end of the French season last year as a 2-year-old. He's a very highly regarded horse. I know your man Laurent Barberin thinks the world of him, and I think 9-4 mightn't actually be the worst price. And just to finish up, a best bet of the weekend, so a nap of the weekend. Unfortunately, this race hasn't been priced up yet, so if she's very short, I do apologise. But the 5:15 at Naas on Saturday, a Ger Lyons filly called Even So, a horse that I've talked about a little bit on different videos. I think she's a very nice filly. Going up in trip to a mile 2 in this Oaks trial. Last seen running on to finish 5th in the Irish 1000 Guineas. behind Peaceful, obviously just in front of Albania that day. She's a daughter of Camelot, so should really take to this step up in trip, and I think she should win on Saturday and get her account going for this season for Gerlines. John Magnier obviously owns this horse, and he wouldn't have that many horses with Gerline, so that's a bit of an interesting one as well. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did so, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below if you are new. And obviously, let me know what your thoughts down below are. Do you think English King will win the Derby? Do you think something else will win the Derby? The Oaks, the Eclipse? Give me what you feel for this weekend's racing down below. And obviously, if you have a bit of a nap of the day left or centre, make sure to let us know down below as well. And until next week, where we'll be probably previewing the weekend action once again, hope you stay safe, land a few bets, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.